today's interview, yeah, and you find out that many people are not very aware of their practice. Although we have been aware that many people learn Satipatthana. How many of you never heard about Satipatthana? Nobody raised hand up. So means you all have heard about Satipatthana. But how is Satipatthana practiced? Right? So you refer to, as when we talk about this, of course in a chanting book we also incorporate Satipatthana. But if you refer to life by mind, then you can also see that although the word is very simple, but the meaning is very deep. So when we talk about Satipatthana, of course in English we translate as the discourse on the foundation of mindfulness, right? So some English say establishment of mindfulness. But why is this mindfulness so important in our cultivation? If you look at the Noble Eightfold Path, what are they? First is right view. Second,
right thought.
Right thought, right intention, right? Third, right speech. Fourth, right action, bodily action. Fifth one, right livelihood. Sixth,
Right effort.
right effort. Seven,
Right mindfulness.
right mindfulness. Eight,
Right.
right concentration. I mean, English we translate concentration, huh? Nine. Nine is the culmination of the eight, yeah? If you practice the eight well, then it will culminate in the nine, that is called right. Some translate knowledge, some translate as wisdom, some translate as insight. Okay? Can be right insight or the knowledge you really know, or wisdom, right? And that will continue. If you cultivate, then it will end in right liberation. So the Noble Eightfold Path, and what you have been practicing, the Sila is basically covered on the third, fourth, fifth. Right speech, right bodily action, right livelihood. Now your livelihood is brahmacharya, is want to have leave the home temporarily, right? You keep the 8 precepts, and of course it needs the right view to condition right thought. Without right view, you don't have right thought, right? So in a nutshell, a quick one, we say right view. What is right view? Not your opinion or my opinion, or any opinion, not any view, right? That you think or I think or anybody else think, right? So the right view here refer to, I say refer to the Four Noble Truth, right? So what is Four Noble Truth? So we come to this question when we say Four Noble Truth. So you know, Four Noble Truth, we think that is the first teaching of the Buddha, right? But if you look at the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the first sutta that the Buddha teaches, the first sermon, turning the wheel of the Dhamma, or setting in motion the wheel of the Dhamma. The first teaching that the Buddha says is, do not go to the extreme of indulgence of sensual pleasure. Then, don't be addicted to self-torture. That's the first teaching. Not the Four Noble Truths, right? Don't go to the extreme of self-indulgence. Indulgence is sensual pleasure. And the next one, don't be addicted to self-torture. Do you see in modern time? If you go in here, you see the ancient time kind of self-indulgence and also self-torture. Still there. But in our modern time, you can also see worse the mind is addicted. What kind of sexual pleasure? Craving for? Handphone. Do you also start longing for your handphone already? Sometimes I have. Right? So, in our modern times, see, sexual pleasure. Right? So, if you go for sexual pleasure, and to a certain extent you are not aware, actually it's quite extreme. Right? In certain countries, the government has taken precaution or prevention. Right? If a person has used about 6 hours a day, other than their work, then they are called addicted. And they have Center for Internet Addiction to rehab. Do you know that? In China, in Korea, there are rehab center for Internet addiction. You'll be surprised. Children, youngsters, when they go for this rehab, not easy to bring them. So normally the parents will give them a bit of a sleeping pill. So then only they can bring them to the center. And then they will be there for 3-4 months to do the rehab. And the first 2 weeks, they put them in a room. You can see them, the way they go, like drunk, when you get drunk into the center, they will put them into the cell for 2 weeks. Some of them, they will go through the process, we call it cold turkey. They cannot bear to detach from the addiction. So physically, everything is okay, food, everything is there. But mentally, they really are like, they're going to die without it. So this is the extent addiction to sexual pleasure can cost you money. If logically look at it, what is that, But when a person gets addicted, just like if we are addicted, we crave for something, it becomes our behavior, our addiction, our habit, our character. So we will not know. But sometimes you will know. When somebody tells you something, they say, I'm like that. No. Do you? Sometimes if you say like that means you're already addicted to certain behavior, certain views, certain thoughts. And you define as I am like that. So you're telling the other person, don't try to change me. I'm like that. It's your character. So if it's your character, it will be your destiny. So no need to die to go somewhere. Already in life, that is your destiny. And what do you cause? A lot of trouble to yourself, a lot of harm, and then you complain. So we have to be very aware. Indulgence in sensual pleasure. That is the cause of suffering. Then self-mortification or self-torture. How do we torture also? Also same, because they are so addicted to handphone. Sometimes you see certain posture that people do, they can do hours of that. I just wonder how they do it. That's why chiropractic, very good business. Isn't it? Sometimes you're not careful, you're one of them, posture. So the posture of the body is not out. And they fast in the sun too. There are people who practice certain, practices that actually torture their body, thinking that will release them to liberation. But that's not the way to the Buddha went through. So either indulgence in sexual pleasure or self-torture or modification These two extremes is not to be practiced. Right? So in our daily life, as a cultivator, we too must also adhere to this first teaching. Right? So second, I want to say, avoiding both extremes, then follow the middle path, the middle way. Right? So a lot of people think middle way. Sometimes I hear some people, Buddhists tell me, when they like something and then they still want that something, then they say, middle way lah, middle way. The middle way means if I take this thing for, let's say, quantity of, let's say, we give example you drink 3 glasses of, let's say, wine. Now you take 1 or 1.5. So middle way. Is that middle way? No. Okay? But because they still like it, so it will reason out to you, that's middle way. So a lot of people use Dharma to justify their own attachment or liking or desire. That's a wrong interpretation. Yeah? So the verse says, avoid both extreme, follow the middle way. And this middle way is none other than the Noble Eightfold Path. Right? So, no other way is the Noble Eightfold Path. Right? So that's how we say, it starts with right view. Yeah? So right view about what? So in the Buddha's teaching, the Buddha do not talk to the people directly about Four Noble Truths. Right? So, of course, you say the middle way, and this middle way is none other than the Noble Eightfold Path. This Noble Eightfold Path starts with right view. And what is right view? The Four Noble Truths, right? And so on. Yeah? So, this Four Noble Truth, as we see there, also the Buddha explained very detailed in the first sermon. Yeah? Most of us know that Four Noble Truths. Then, what is the summary? Everybody can give. What is the first one? What is the first Noble Truth?
There is suffering.
Dukkha, suffering. There is suffering. Yeah? Not life is suffering. There is suffering. If life is suffering, then nothing can change. If there is suffering, something else can change. Right? Then the second Noble Truth? Cause of suffering. Third Noble Truth? Cessation of suffering, or realization, cessation of suffering. Fourth one? The path that leads to the end of suffering, the cessation of suffering. Okay, now you go detail a bit. The Four Noble Truths, the first Noble Truth, suffering, there is suffering. What to do with this suffering? You know all the suffering, but now what to do with this suffering? Oh, you heard before. What is that? There is suffering. What to do with this suffering? Sudah tak tahu lupa. So remember, in the first sutra, the Buddha mentioned these Four Noble Truths. There are 3 aspects of them. There are 12 terms. The first Noble Truth, there is suffering. So what to do? It's call for action. So the call for action is you ought to understand there is suffering. Not just there is suffering, so what? There's call for action. There is suffering. You ought to understand there is suffering. Right? Not only you ought to understand, and you fully understood there is suffering. Without that, you will suffer. You must fully understood, or has been fully understood. Right? So, Four Noble Truths is not just a theory. It's a call for your action. There is suffering, you ought to understand. there is suffering. And you must fully understand there is suffering. Okay? What about second noble truth? The cause of suffering, right? The origin of suffering. So what to do? What to do with the cause of suffering? Because I say abandon also can, but the second one, the cause of suffering, the call for action is you ought to eradicate the cause of suffering. Right? You ought to eradicate the cause of suffering. And you must fully eradicate the cause of suffering. Or the cause of suffering has been fully eradicated. Right? So the action is to eradicate cause of suffering. Right? Then we say cessation of suffering or realization, the end of suffering. What to do? You ought to realize, right, the end of suffering. And you must fully realize the end of suffering, or has been fully realized, the end of suffering. Again, this cause of action. Yeah? Not just the end of suffering, finished already. Right? Then the fourth, the path that leads to the end of suffering, or cessation of suffering. So what to do? You ought to develop the path that leads to the end of suffering. And you must fully develop the path that leads to the end of suffering. Or it has been fully developed. So now can you see the Noble Eightfold Path that we see mostly staying like theory. And sometimes we even forget the Noble Eightfold Path. Right? When I say in sequence, sometimes we have to think which one comes first, which one second. Some even can't remember what is in between. Then if we do not know the path, we say, avoiding both extremes, follow the middle path. So if you cannot remember the middle path, then how do you follow? Then you follow the wrong path. Right? You see, right view. Even during Buddha's time, there are 62 wrong views. Only one right view. So how not to fall into wrong views? Even today, we also have many, many kinds of views. Right? But all of you are very fortunate. At least you are exposed to the Noble Eightfold Path. Right? And you come to at least learn about right view. Right? If you don't continue to develop and understand right view, then most of the time we are actually dwelling in the wrong view. So wrong view will cause condition wrong thought. Wrong thought will condition wrong speech. Wrong speech will condition wrong reaction. Wrong reaction will condition wrong livelihood. Wrong livelihood will condition wrong effort, wasted energy. Wrong effort will condition wrong mindfulness. And wrong mindfulness will condition wrong samadhi. And wrong samadhi, of course, will condition wrong knowledge. And then wrong knowledge will condition, you think you're already enlightened, but end up somewhere else. Right? So in this, we can see that it's so important that this teaching, the Noble Eightfold Path, is the most important GPS in our path of cultivation. Right? Without this, without remembering this, actually most of the time we get wrong. And not only we remember, but we have to find the meaning of it, right? take it into practice and evaluate. Right? So again and again. Right? So for using GPS, I think all of you will agree. It will bring you here and there, but finally you may get to the destination. But in this teaching, it's so direct, so clear. You don't have to go kampung, and don't know what route, what route to get there. You just go highway. Right? If you know, and you practice. Right? So, how that we see here, for example, we say the mindfulness here, for example. Mindfulness, if it's not correctly practiced, let me say, what mindfulness are we practicing? So if wrong mindfulness, last time maybe you may hear Ariya say before, Ariya is going to share, some of you maybe not heard before. So when I talk about mindfulness, one day the boss told the guy of his house, please be mindful, okay? And take care of my house properly, mindful. So the boss mindful. So then what happened is a thief come. So the guy was sitting at the poster. So mindful. So I have to really observe very carefully, right? So he saw the thief coming into the gate. Then he saw the thief mindfully walk on. He saw the thief walk into the house, open the house. So he observed someone who was very mindful, or the thief enter into the house. After the thief entered the house, he saw the thief go into the boss room. After go to the boss room, he saw the thief mindfully open the safe. And then the thief took the jewelry and everything, money. And then after that, he saw the thief return back to the main door. Then saw the thief go up from the gate. Right? So, okay, very mindfully, he see everything. Then, when the boss came back, I found that his jewelry and everything lost. Of course, he called the cat. What actually happened? I tell you to be mindful to come and know my house. Say, boss, I am very mindful. You told me to be mindful. I observe very mindfully. You know, the guy and the thief, he came to the main door, the gate, they opened the gate, and he came in. After he came in, he go to the main door and he opened the door and he went in. After that, he went to your room, and then after he opened the safe and he took the jewelry, and then he returned back to the main door, and then he also went out to the main gate. I am very mindful. What do you think? Right, mindfulness? So, some people apply that. You see, concentrate. Do they know how to concentrate? You see, they play TikTok, concentrate on. Concentrate on. Is that right concentration?
No.
Very concentrated, right? You call also doing. They don't answer you one. Very concentrated. All these are not concentration. Right? They can even concentrate until the body so tired. Sometimes you see people are so tired, still looking at one at the handphone. Right? Sometimes in a position so painful, still can hold and look. Right? So you can know. Right? So what do you mean by all these practices? Right? So we can see that when we talk about mindfulness in this aspect of cultivation, right? So Ariya really jump into here because to guide you a bit on when we talk about satipatthana, right? So what is a cultivation? So it's not about for path. So it's to be developed. Right? So along this development, the basis is because we need to understand the suffering. Right? Those come interview one, I think everybody also tell Ariya suffering. You know what suffering? Because it's the most elder group in this group. What do you think is the suffering?
Preaching.
Some more? Body very stiff, leg also very stiff, everywhere stiff lah. But craving is not stiff yet. Right? Physically, yeah, very challenging. Right? So this is where when you do cultivation, right, then only you start to see, oh, there is suffering. Aging is suffering. Right? Before that, we don't know aging is suffering. But now we know aging is suffering. Our capacity, our mental ability, all degenerate. So, suffering. Yeah? So there is suffering. So do we really understand there is suffering? Maybe still not. We still love to eat a lot of kind of things that harm our body. We still do not suffering. Right? Due to craving, we will. Right? So therefore, again, in our life, in our practice, right? Here we are offered very, very good, healthy food. Yeah? But out there, we have a choice. Do you keep to your understanding that suffering or not? And most people don't. Right? And the newly conditioned mind that we have is always that we like to find cure, but not prevention. Right? We like cure. I love to eat, I love to enjoy, but can I also have no pain? Cannot. We say cannot, huh? But a lot of people, they will find cure. Now, modern medicine always give you cure. What you want, they can do it for you. So my boss last time is like that, love to eat. Eat after uric acid, then kaki sakit. Then reminder, he will say, makan dulu, mati belakang cerita. So what happened? Makan dulu wrong. After makan, then I told him, better not. Then he said, I got peeled. Like he said. So on one hand, I have to enjoy the food. On the other hand, I don't like the pain, right? So I find a cure to cure my pain. Right? So what is that? Painkiller, right? So sometimes, because of craving, we become very foolish. Right? So we add, after we add, the next day, ada makan the duck also, makan the pig also, but still in pain. Right? That's why I always tell them, the Chinese, if you know how to write, 明明知道又做不到，知道痛苦又要受苦，受苦之后又呱呱叫，你说好笑不好笑？上到底要什么来？明明知道又做不到，知道痛苦又要受苦，受苦之后又呱呱叫，你说好笑不好笑？So we're very foolish sometimes. Right? You know that your body cannot take it, but still you want to take it. Why? Then we can see the culprit, craving, your desire, your liking. Right? So, in this way, then we can practice mindfulness here, mindfulness there, retreat here, retreat there. So what kind of mindfulness are you talking about? That's why the government, I see the fever coming in. Then, go back. Seems to know everything in theory. Right? So when you talk about mindfulness, it's always based on, see, before that is what? Sila, right? Isn't it? On the right thing to do. Because you're mindful how it will trigger suffering. Whether it's a physical suffering, mental suffering, or the suffering of spiritual ignorance. Right? Physical suffering, you know what? Aging, sickness, death. You know very clearly. If you do wrong thing, you get sick. Right? Some sickness will come immediately. gradually they will come. Right? Heaps and heaps and heaps, then become your aggregate. Right? So, some is a mental suffering. Right? So body suffer already, mind complains some more, so suffer again. Right? Then of course ignorant is because you don't understand this body and mind. Right? So we have to go deeper in tackling this problem that we create for ourselves. Right? So in order for us to practice, that's why we say the sila is important. And so it helps us to, like a river bank, right? So that the water don't overflow. Right? So when you practice the sila well, that will become a foundation for your mindfulness to grow better. Right? So last time there's this particular Bhante in Bugaya, where she has passed away at the age of 90 plus. He used to share. He said, the sila that we practice, it's just like a boat, helping us to cross to the other shore. Right? So when you practice, when you want to cultivate your mind, so you need a boat, to cross over the other shore. And we say you need a dharma, right? A boat to cross over. But suppose you have this boat, you already have this boat, 5% or 8%, So suppose you have this boat, but your boat is leaking, got one hole, what will happen? Water will come in, right? So if you keep your sila, got hole, what happens is when the boat, so very busy, you see into the boat, and then what do you do? Passway. Very busy passway. So what happened? What it means when they keep the sila, very busy, addressing all the unwholesome things. Then how are you going to develop the wholesome side of it? You allow the leak. So how the mind can develop? Because the sila is leaking. Whether first precept, second precept, third precept, fourth precept. So that's why we say, why noble silence? Because most of the time, if we speak unmindfully, we are speaking false speech. So that's why we want the mind to become too activated, because the tendency is whereby we haven't have right humor. So it will condition wrong thought, wrong speech, wrong body action, wrong effort. So you spend a lot of time on the wrong way. So how is the mind going to be developed? Can't develop. We're not talking about the mind at all. Your behavior, your speech, those are very important foundation, for the higher mind to develop. So therefore, it is very important for us to understand that, so that it's not just for retreat, but in our daily life. These are supposed to be practiced properly. So now the book, I say, if it's leaking, what do you do? If boat is leaking, what do you do? Go home. You go and tell people, hey, my boat is leaking, go home. So it's what to do now. The person says, you go and fix it now. But you don't fix it, then what happens? Keep easy on, splashing the water out. Right? Most people do like that. They know there's a leaking, a hole. But they will ask people, can you do something about that? What can other people do for you? And you got to fix it, right? So what to do? Very easy, right? Just make the hole close. Then when you make the hole close, then okay, the boat can use that. So even the boat can use, then you also must know If you just sit on the book and move or not? Cannot, right? You need to know how to move the boat. So when you have taken 5% or 8%, you must know how to practice, how to apply. It's not just like this, but the application, the practice. You must know how to row the boat, how to practice. So after you know how to row the boat, then you start to row. But even after you learn, you start to row, you find the boat. If your energy is not same, the boat will go straight one. The boat will go merry-go-round. Right? And if you don't know again, then the boat will go downstream instead of crossing over to the other shore. Right? So it means the necessity for the practice, the skill, and then the application, balanced application to practice it. Then, after that, you must be consistent in rowing the boat. You cannot be row halfway and then you stop. Then what happens? Going downstream but never cross the shore. Right? So some of us, we practice, you go for a retreat, then you come back, then after that, quiet again. Right? So if your practice is not consistent, you can also never cross to the other shore. Right? So this is a very important thing that although we have all this with us, but we ask ourselves, contemplate, why are we not reaching to the other shore? Right? What are the bases of practice? Sila. Right? Practice well. Therefore, this 8%, right? So take it as a goal that we practice for life, not just for retreat. Because if not, the character don't change. Right? So when you don't change, nothing changes. If you're going to talk about development of mind, sila come first. If you can perfect that, naturally you will have a very steady mind to develop further. Right? So mindfulness here, that we say, is right mindfulness, not any mindfulness. When I say right mindfulness, then it refers to the four foundation of mindfulness. Right? Four foundation of mindfulness, that we say there are four. Right? First is contemplation on the body. Then second, feeling. Third, the mind. Fourth, the Dharma or the mind object. But it's a very huge topic of cultivation. But then we come to the first one, contemplation of the body and the body. So here, I'll read to you so that you hear the line by line. Actually, it's a very old, long sutta, and also they explain about craving and everything. So the introduction, again, I will highlight to you. Of course, this was delivered among the gurus at Kama Sadama, which some of them say is quite near to Delhi. Then the Buddha said that this monk is one direct path that leads to the purification of beings. The overcoming of sorrow and lamentation, the disappearance of pain and despair, or grief, for the attainment of the right being. Right? For the realization of Nibbana, that is to say, four foundation of mindfulness. That is not helpful you all. Noble Eightfold Path is one of the GPS in modern one. So this is another GPS for the development of mindfulness. Right? There is no other that is very, very clear, that the Buddha explained. Right? Then what for here monks? A monk abides contemplating body as body, ardent, clearly aware and mindful, having given up covetousness and grief for the world. So, this one, when we cultivate, means when we start our meditation or cultivation, then we clearly state here, yeah, having given up covetousness and grief for more. Right? Given up covetousness means what? Most of the time our mind act like this. When we see something, very latent in our mind, I want that to become mine. The meaning of covetousness is like that. Right? Anything you see, you hear, smell, taste, body, or your mind. Right? The moment the sense go out, you want that to become yours. That is covetousness. Right? And the second one is having given up grief for the world. Right? So, because we are very attached to the world outside, whether it's visual object, sound, smell, odors, or body tangible, and your mind object. So, we are very much into the world, but within us, we do not know. Right? Because we are so attached. Yeah? And sometimes we cry for the world because we think we have lost that. One is you want to belong, the other one you think you have lost that. Right? So it's always attaching to the I, mine, mine. Right? So he abides contemplating, first is contemplating body as body, second is contemplating feelings as feeling, third is contemplating mind as mind, fourth is contemplating mind object as mind objects. Some actually translate it as Dhamma. Yeah? Now the first one, Kayanupassana, Anapanapava, section of mindfulness of breathing. Yeah? So, Apana means in breath and out breath. So it's very specifically in breath and out breath. So now the Buddha gives instruction. And how does the mind abide contemplating the body as body? Right? In summary, actually, there are 6 and become 14 ways. But the 6th actually is 5 plus 9, become 14. So the first is Anapanasati. Second is the four posture. Third is clear comprehension, Sati Sampajana. The other one, just now, the 4 posture is Iriya Then clear comprehension. And then the 4th one is the impurity of the bodies. So they call it blossominess. And then the 5th one is on elements, body as element. And the 6th is actually section on the 9 Chanandra contemplation. So 5 plus 9 become 14. But like summary, we said 6 types. 6 types of how we can understand the body as body. Right? So first one, start with Anapanasati. So in how monks does a monk abide contemplating the body as body? Here monks, a monk who has gone to the forest, or has gone to the root of a tree, or has gone to an empty room, right? Where to cultivate. Right? So beginning is necessary to have a conducive environment for the cultivation. Yeah? So how is the body posture? Okay? So the Buddha instructs, sit down cross-legged, okay? Holding his body upright, having established mindfulness at the front. Means we put forth mindfulness to the front. But a lot of times when we talk about this, there are so many other instructions. Some will ask you to fix the breath here, some fix them inside. Some also tell you fix at the belly, some in the chest or in the heart. So there are so many instructions, right? But here the Buddha just mentioned, what they call mindfulness in the front means you keep the mindfulness the most essence of your practice. It's not fixing at any breath. Understand that? Because most of us, when we think about mindfulness, the word mindfulness itself, right? So what it is? But in Pali, it is sati. So some will say it's remembrance, then some will translate mindfulness, some will say clear awareness, some will say clear knowing, some will say we are conscious about it. So which one? So English can never represent one word to one word in Pali. Right? But as we practice, we can actually deduce. I think the key thing is not about the breath that we are trying to develop, it's the mindfulness that we are developing. Right? So most of us make mistake. So we focus on the breathing. Right? So sometimes we meditate, it's all mindfulness on the in-breath and out-breath. So people start to breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, and then they try to fix on that breathing. That is incorrect. Right? So you can breathe for 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, you will get anywhere of right mindfulness. Right? The fact is, you're already breathing for your whole life, but yet cannot get enlightened more. So if the breath is the object, then you didn't get it right. But then it's strange, right? It's mindfulness of the in-breath and out-breath. Not mindfulness of breathing alone, but it's in-breath and out-breath. So what is this mindfulness we're talking about? Right? So when I give you an instruction, if you hear clearly the instruction, so when you get your mind to relax more, right, then you start to notice, or your awareness or your knowing start to become more clear, and you will start to see or start to experience or start to know that you're breathing in and breathing out naturally, effortlessly, and we can find the word mindfully. Right? So as you breathe in and breathe out, you know that you're breathing in, you know that you're breathing out. So you maintain that clear knowing, all that mindfulness or full awareness, you can imagine it, that you understood, Then you say, how do we know? I say, if Ariya put the hand, do you know? You know, right? Do you need to say, Ariya hand is up? No need. Directly you know real time. Correct? If you start to say Ariya hand is up, what does that mean? It's already past. Do you know? Okay? So that is the one that we want to develop. That mindfulness. That knowing. Not about your gross breathing in, breathing out, or fixing something, or following the breath. Right? So those are gross. Don't label too. Right? But your mind knows very quickly. Right? So what we want to develop is this knowing or the mindfulness. Right? So how to get there is very tricky, because when we are not relaxed, there's a tendency that we're grasping at something as gross, your breathing. Right? And even that, when you get into that state of knowing, for a while, it is very quiet, very mindful, you clearly know. Right? But if you forget to apply that knowing, a while, thoughts will come in. As you forget, thoughts will come in already. And sometimes, even as you are keeping the mind, the knowing on the in-breath and out-breath, sometimes you actually jump into the breathing again. Right? So it is delicate, very tricky, but it can be developed. Okay? So you have to get it right, because if you don't get it right, then the practice is, like I said, if you don't get to this, the path of, what is supposed to be practiced, you don't practice, then of course you won't get into right mindfulness on this anapanasati. Right? So of course you read about 16 steps, you want to do all the steps. I think the 16 steps is a tetra of 4. Those other steps is already into samadhi state. Right? The first 4 only is the one that we are getting into right mindfulness. And the rest, when we get continuously, it will develop to samadhi. Right? But at first, we have to get it right. Right? For anapanasati, actually, it's the most relaxed one. But a lot of people hear anapanasati, they takut. I also don't know why they takut. It's the easiest and the most comfortable. Because what? You don't have to do anything. Just so you relax. After you relax, you bring your attention, right? Or you start to experience and start to have a clarity of mind. Start to know that you're breathing in and breathing out. Then after that, what you do is, right? Because the awareness or the knowing start to be more clear, then you just continue to meditate. Right? So just like you watch TV, right? You watch TV like an observer, right? But here there's no knower, it's just knowing. Right? And you look at the movie in the TV, right? If you look at it as an observer, then whatever happens in TV, you just know, but it doesn't affect you, right? But if you forget, then what happens to you when you watch some movie? They cry, you also cry, right? They laugh, you also laugh, right? It's funny, isn't it? Actually, it's not a TV show, right? But you follow, right? And then they cry, you cry. They get angry, you get angry, right? So it means what? You have forgotten. You jump into the drama, right? So same. The breath is the same. After you observe a while, sometimes you may jump into the breath again. Means you cross breathing again. So you have to let go, come back, relax, and get into the knowing mode again. Right? And then from there, you continue to proceed. Right? So that trick is there, but you need to know. Right? So when you hear the instruction, you have to follow properly. Right? And get the knowing on board. And from there, you just continue to maintain that continuous knowing. What we can say is that establish mindfulness continuously on the breath. Establish mindfulness or the knowing continuously on the breath. So this is the mindfulness that we want to develop, that we call right mindfulness. Right? So without this, of course, very difficult to enter into our mind. Right? So again and again we contemplate. Right? So sometimes we can go through the whole Satipatthana, but even one also we cannot master. So be contented on. Develop this one. And why is this one so important? Right? The Buddha talks in Anapanasati Sutta. Right? If you can develop Anapanasati well, fully develop, right? The fruit, the benefit is abundant, tremendous. Right? Why? Because if you can develop Anapanasati well, then the four foundations of mindfulness are fulfilled. You will understand mindfulness on the feeling, on the mind, and also the Dhamma. No only that, right? It will lead you to the fulfilling of the 7 factors of mindfulness. The first factor is mindfulness. Right? So if you develop this anapanasati very well, it will lead you to the first factor of enlightenment and subsequently to the 7 factor of enlightenment. Not only that, then after that it will fulfill your right knowledge, wisdom, and right liberation. So when you find you buy one, free 4, after that free 7, and free 2. Do you know how powerful anapanasati is? But I know now in the market, people always depopularize anapanasati. But if you really know, you practice, you can really know how powerful anapanasati is. And not because you want to, because the process let you, it is a very natural process to let it go. And because of that, it helps to subside all the defilements, all the hindrances of the mind. And it also you will quiet down all your senses. And that's how you enter deeper and deeper and deeper. Right? So for this, that's why although the instruction is very simple, very simple. Like here, further, the Buddha said, okay, here runs a man who has gone to the forest, or has gone to the root of a tree, or has gone to an empty room, sits down, cross-legged, holding his body upright, having established mindfulness at the front, mindfully he breathes in, mindfully he breathes out. While breathing in long, he knows I breathe in long. While breathing out long, he knows I breathing out long. Or while breathing in short, he knows I breathe in short. While breathing out short, he knows I breathe out short. He trains thus, I shall breathe in, experiencing the whole body. He trains thus, I shall breathe out, experiencing the whole body. He trains thus, I shall breathe in, tranquilizing the bodily formation. He trains thus, I shall breathe out, tranquilizing the bodily formation. Right? So as you practice, so it's not per se the gross breathing, but the mindfulness, the knowing of the in-breath and the out-breath. Okay? So when you can get it right, then you find it's very, very relaxed. Yeah? And you also find when you are able to do that, when the knowing mind is clearer and clearer, means your mindfulness is clearer, then you also can experience, or you will start to see in that mindfulness, in that knowing, there is no past, no future. Your mind don't think of the past or future, because no thinking there. It's just pure mindfulness and the knowing. Right? And in that state also you can see there's no craving. There's no craving. So if you can keep that all the time, then of course, it develops to become right mindfulness, heightened mindfulness, continuous mindfulness. And when that can be done, then it will condition your right samadhi. Okay? So this is one thing that we all have to know. And in the Noble Eightfold Path, right effort, right mindfulness, and then right samadhi. So tomorrow we will talk a bit more on the right effort, so that you can see what you do when you have defilements or unwholesome state that comes up, and those state that is good haven't come up, what you should do. Right? So I hope, so important that you get this right mindfulness, your anapanasati correct, so that from there, at least you still have 8 days to strive on, and hopefully, you will get deeper. Alright, so tonight we offer this for your contemplation, for your understanding, so that you can practice correctly. Right? Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.